Hi everyone, it's Joe with Sharp Eye for Coins, and today I'd like to talk about one of my favorite commemorative coins, the Texas Independence Centennial commemorative half dollar. Now, Texas won its independence from Mexico in the year 1836, and yet this coin began production in 1934? Why? Who are these portraits to the sides of the kneeling figure? Who is that kneeling figure there anyway? An angel? A goddess? I heard both. Who designed that awesome eagle, and why is it considered the obverse with the date and not the reverse? Obviously, I had a lot of questions about this coin, and I've been really excited to delve into it, so let's get started. With the anniversary of Texas independence from Mexico quickly approaching, plans were coming to fruition to celebrate the centennial anniversary with an exposition to be held in Dallas. James Allred was governor at the time and helped spur the construction of many buildings, sculptures, and memorials for the event. But planning organizers and academics soon realized, to their embarrassment, that the state of Texas didn't even have a state museum. No one would take a State of the Union seriously that didn't have a state museum, so a push to get state, public, and private funding for a Texas Memorial Museum started, and thus the idea for a commemorative coin was born. At the behest of the American Legion, Texas Centennial Committee, the 73rd Congress of the United States authorized the mintage of no more than 1.5 million 50-cent pieces to commemorate the 100th anniversary in 1936 of the independence of Texas and of the noble and heroic sacrifices of her pioneers, whose memory has been an inspiration to her sons and daughters through the past century. Selected to do the design was sculptor Pompeo Capini, already a 35-year Texan immigrant and fresh off the completion of the Littlefield Fountain Memorial at the University of Texas in Austin. The first sketches apparently weren't very thrilling, and I'm sorry, I couldn't find a sketch of those, but I can say that the Commission of Fine Arts member Lee Laurie, also a key decision maker in the design of the Roosevelt dime, had to make suggestions for changes, including a comment that the slumping vulture-like eagle be designed to have dignity and spirit. My guess is that Capini may have designed the first eagle loosely, perhaps around the cap bust dollar eagle or half dollar eagles minted in 1836. I'm just a guess, but we really need to see those sketches. Whatever the case is, though, Capini agreed to make the changes, and there was pressure to move fast because everybody wanted to get the coins in advance of the actual centennial in 1936. They wanted to start making money before then. I think that explains why these were really done in 1934. But luckily, Pompeo Capini worked fast, and he quickly produced models. They got approved by the Treasury, and then he sent them to the Medallic Art Company in New York City for reduction into hubs. And they started minting these in October and November in 1934 at the Philadelphia Mint only. Okay, and they were sold for $1 a piece. Now, they minted 205,113 pieces. They reserved the 113 odd ones for a save, and they sold quite a few of the rest, but the sales quickly lagged, as they often do after the initial hype. They, committee returned the 143,650,000 back to the mint. Now, they had a plan. Because the legislation didn't specify which mints could strike the coins, and it also didn't establish a time frame, for the issuance, that open-endedness led to a sales scheme the committee developed, which they wanted to increase the number of varieties available so they could drive collector demand. Sound familiar? So they tried, and I would say ultimately it failed. They started minting. They minted 30,000 coins with a 1935 date. 10,000 coins each from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. And though essentially all of those would be sold, the pace of sales was not great, and they didn't foresee future demand. Uh, so they, you know, eventually ran out of steam. Okay, and they minted fewer and fewer. Now, an advertisement in the Numismatist in August 1938 uh, announced that existing supplies of halves would get returned to the mint for melting, and no more will be coined. And they went on, of course, to try to get collectors to buy some more. Complete your sets before it's too late. Sound familiar? It's kind of funny. It goes back almost 100 years or more. So, anyway, even though Congress attempted to pass the legislation allowing for a redesign of the coin, uh, neither the House or the Senate bills made it into law. So, no, new Texas commemorative coin designs were made, and even if that might have been interesting to see, I'm personally happy this is the one and only. And ultimately, despite their sales pitches, the committee held true to its word, and the museum was built. And President Franklin Delano Roosevelt visited Austin while campaigning and also attended the groundbreaking ceremony. In fact, he even set off the dynamite to begin construction of the Memorial Museum June 11th, 1936. So if anybody ever talks smack about FDR, remind them he was pretty cool. He liked explosions. So let's look at a raw example of this Capini design coin. What you're looking at here is the obverse, uh, a departure from what we normally see with the eagle on the reverse, the eagle and the date on the reverse. This is the obverse with the eagle and the date. And it's showing, a very robust and proud looking eagle with United States of America, on the rim. In God We Trust. And the eagle is in the foreground of the five-pointed Texas star. As you can see, out of many, one. E pluribus unum, motto there just to the west of the eagle. And this one is dated 1937. And you see $50 at the south. I really love this eagle. It's very proud, stands tall. I think it's a gorgeous eagle. Now, one of the most prominent features on the reverse here is this kneeling winged figure, and I really want to take a second and talk about that because PCGS, NGC, the Gray Sheet, the Red Book, many other websites identify this figure as the Roman goddess Victoria, or the goddess of victory. And I gotta disagree. I don't think that it is, and I would like them to show proof of why they're saying that. I'm skeptical of it because, well, first, the Alamo was not a victory. Okay, it was a defensive stand that ultimately became, a sacrifice, and not longer after it became a battle cry, right, during the Battle of San Jacinto. Uh, the Republic of Texas, it was just formed prior to that battle, was contested after even the Mexicans surrendered after that battle. So over the next decade, there were periodic battles and skirmishes between Mexico and the Republic of Texas. Mexico didn't recognize it as an independent state until really its incorporation into the United States of America. And that's I'm gonna come back to it, why that's important here in a second. But another point here is you could see that this figure is holding an olive branch in her right hand. Now, the goddess of victory is not known to ever have carried an olive branch, but a palm branch. The reason why Victoria was associated with olives was because during the Olympic ceremonies, an olive wreath was placed on the head of the victors, right? But it wasn't a branch, it was a wreath. The olive branch is a symbol of peace, and that comes from the goddess Irene and the god Mars, the bringer of peace. That's why an olive branch, extending an olive branch, extending a hand of peace, okay? So let's think about the foundation of the Republic of Texas, where there was westward expansion, right? And there was a transition also at the same time of this personification of Columbia, the female representation of the United States of America as this like semi-mythical figure. For example, and just bear with me here. I want to read this poem by Phyllis Wheatley, okay, an African-American poet that was written in 1776 during the Revolutionary War. Think about this. One century scarce performed its destined round, when Gallic powers Columbia's fury found. So may you, whoever dares in disgrace the land of freedom's heaven-defended race. Fixed are the eyes of nations on the scales, for in their hopes Columbia's arm prevails. Okay, why is that so important? Okay, the 19th century, Columbia was visualized as a goddess-like female national personification of the United States and of liberty itself, okay? Very similar to Britannia or the French Marianne, okay? And I have no doubt in my mind that Capini was familiar with this. I mean, he was a student of these classic forms over his entire career. And so think about what this figure is doing. The left arm is on the Alamo, as almost as though it's protecting. She's looking to the west, westward expansion, and also carrying an olive branch of peace. Okay, so let's think about these things. And lastly, the final point here is that the figure really is reminiscent of Capini's own version of a winged Columbia as sculpted on his own statue that he made at the Littlefield Fountain at the University of Texas, Columbia, just a few years before he worked on this. Okay? So where does victory come in? So I think of these points, it's really important that this kneeling figure is most likely Columbia herself, the embodiment of the United States, looking out to the west, perhaps California, guarding the Alamo, right, and holding the olive branch of peace with Mexico. That's my theory, okay? I think that there's definitely more research that needs to be done. I would love to see some of the archives, and we'll see if anything is in Capini's book about this. But anyway, that's just my theory. Let's move on. So we have to the east and west of her wings two portraits. Okay, on the west is General Sam Houston, who was commander of the Texas Army, okay, in the newly found Republic of Texas, and became the first president in 1836, the first president of Texas. And to the east is Stephen Austin, okay, the leader of the earliest Anglo-Saxon settlers in that region. And above Columbia's, I'm going to call her Columbia, sorry guys. Above Columbia's head are six flags, and that represents the six nations that at one time or another laid claim to some part of Texas. And you see the scroll there, Liberty. Love it. And near the bottom of the coin here, well, you see the Alamo. We talked about that. At the bottom of the coin, 1836 to 1936, and remember the Alamo straddling the rim. Beautiful. And a lot of people think it's too busy. I think it's like the perfect amount that you can mash into a coin for a state with as rich a history as Texas. So I hope you enjoyed this video on the Texas Independence Centennial. commemorative $50. If you did and you look forward to more, please make sure that you like, subscribe to the channel, hit the alert bell for notifications. And once again, this is Joe with Sharp Eye for Coins going out. Be well to yourself, be well to each other.